Good morning, everyone. This is Commissioner Bell. Today is Tuesday, September 10th, 2024, and we'll call this meeting to order at 8 a.m. As a reminder, our call-in number is 971-254-3149, conference ID 866-914-607#. Before we get started, I'd like to remind everyone to mute your phones. You can do this by pressing star 6. Please unmute yourself when called to speak, again pressing star 6. It's very important for all others to remain muted. Thank you. Well, we will start off with a Board of Commissioners roll call. Good morning, Commissioner Olson.
Good morning, I am here.
And good morning, Commissioner Scarr.
Good morning, Commissioner Bell. Welcome back.
Thank you. I'm glad to be back. Well, we generally start with Adventist Health Tillamook, and President Eric Swanson is not available, so we can jump right in with the Coastal Caucus. Is Senator Weber with us this morning?
Good morning, I am.
Good morning.
I hope I'm unmuted.
Yes, you are.
And welcome back. You had a wonderful vacation, and I'm happy for you.
Thank you.
I'll just jump right in. I know that you all know that we had a Coastal Caucus meeting last week, and one of the issues that was on the forefront in that meeting was, of course, the anticipated change in the manner of license and permit sales for fishing and hunting and clams and everything else that we gather, and all of the people who come here together. And this was a presentation by ODFW, and I just wanted you all to know that it's still in the works, that there are things that they have to work out, because once again, there's going to be a new app introduced that's going to be handling all of this. And as so many other apps and things that we subscribe to in this state, I am hoping that it will be as friendly as possible, and there will not be the problems that we have had with so many of the apps, especially regarding family leave and unemployment benefits and employment. So I'm hoping, but I am cautiously optimistic, let's say, that once again, we will have unanticipated problems because of the area we live in. I contacted one of the retailers to convey the message to him, and so we're going to continue to be vigilant on this issue, because it does affect all of our retailers that sell licenses and permits along the coast, and it does impact their revenue. And it does impact the service to the people that are buying these permits. So I also had a meeting with the Oro Rural Electric Cooperative Association, talking about different challenges we have within the state. And I have to tell you that we should be very thankful for our PUD and the service it gives us. There are many problems concerning electricity within our state. And especially when we're talking about wildfire and rates and the need for electricity, especially for our big industries that rely on it for chips and things like that. So we're blessed. We've got our PUD. Because of my work on chronic absenteeism, I was in Salem with the governor on Friday morning. She signed a proclamation supporting student attendance because this month is Attendance Awareness Month. And we were joined by Dr. Charlene Williams from ODE. And it highlighted how important it is and how important the governor feels that it is that our kids are in school and are learning. You also noticed, I'm sure, that Tillamook County made the Oregonian this weekend with a feature story on the eelgrass and the commercial harvest of oysters, which is also a discussion on the forefront as to how that will be handled. We definitely have different camps, and we have different economic interests in this. And so it's something that will be discussed at length in the future. I also had several discussions with the Department of Human Services after an extensive report that we were given on the child care agency regulations and how some of these regulations have come into being and how they are being well managed, I guess is the best word, and the possibilities of what could come as a result. But we have a lot of issues, especially in our Department of Human Services, because it addresses such a wide range of citizens and with a wide ranges of problems and challenges. So that's something that's also being worked on, and I am having more discussions this week on that also. We're finalizing work on our substitute teacher task force, and it is also a very challenging task force because it is an issue. Our substitute teachers are an issue that we have taken for granted for a very long time, and we have to listen to their concerns, and especially since we have agencies now that are managing them in many parts of the states rather than our school districts or our ESDs managing them. And so there's a lot of work that has to be done on that, and the final report will be prepared soon. I did have some fun this weekend. I participated in the Sip and Stroll up in Napa at the Hampton Tree Farm. They have a gorgeous completed yurt, no water, no electricity, for meetings up there. It is in the middle of the forest, and it is beautiful. They have this, I think this was the third annual or the fourth annual Sip and Stroll. They have a path through the woods that's lighted that you can walk. And they do it at Halloween also. And this is a fundraiser for the North Coast Watershed Association. It's very well attended. It's a very enjoyable evening outside in the woods. I also went to the Santosh Summer Send-Off in Scappoose. And I also attended the Columbia County Republican picnic, where I tasted probably the best hamburger I've ever had in my life, because the guy has a secret recipe. And I hope to duplicate it at some point in my life because it was really good. But anyway, the other thing that we need to start talking about is our preparedness. We have coming up, our next month is going to be focusing on that. And I think it's time that we start looking ahead for what's coming up. Do you have your go bag? Have you planned your escape routes for your family? What are your family plans for assembling? There are all kinds of things that need to be taken into consideration, and it's never too soon to be looking at these things. Several times within the last few months, we have had earthquakes off the coast. Now, I don't feel them, but somebody out there is paying attention. And yes, they are releasing the pressure a little bit at a time, but we don't know what's really happening down there. So anyway, that's something that we have to be paying attention to. And I think that that pretty much concludes what I have to say. As you notice, I'm losing my voice. It couldn't be because I talked too much. But thank you once again for the opportunity to be here and to present. If you have any questions, just holler.
Thank you, Senator. I'm sorry that you're losing your voice, and I'm happy to hear you on this call again. Do we have any questions for Senator Weber?
I did forget something. Our working water, our working water, land and water group is having its tour this Thursday. And so we have invited people from all over the state to come and join us and find out more about our area. And I'm looking forward to that also. That's on Thursday.
Thank you. I was interested to hear you talk about the eelgrass situation, and I did see that article in the Oregonian. I think folks could look it up if they're interested. I've heard from the industry a couple times that they're concerned that folks who are in the industry are concerned that no one's reached out to them yet. So they're hearing about it, but nobody's talking to them directly about it yet. So I wonder if that's something the Coastal Caucus could take on, or you could just reach out to Mike Sandin at the port, or maybe you already have.
We've talked, a lot of agencies have talked about this for quite some time, but we don't have a definitive route or an action. But yes, there are lots of people who are very interested in how we are going to resolve this situation, especially our
for sure.
processors.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that's, you hit the nail on the head, that people who are impacted by it know that people are talking about it, but they're not yet talking to them, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah. Yes, because a lot of interest groups are focusing on this. And you know what I mean by that. That, they have a special interest in that, and but we need to have more carryover so that it's a more inclusive discussion about how it can be resolved.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for your work on that. I hadn't heard before this morning about the substitute teacher task force. That's interesting. Does that just mean there's a drastic shortage of substitute teachers?
There has been a drastic shortage, and like I said, there are companies that provide substitutes in wide areas. Just like when we had the nurse problem, they come in and provide the people to come in and provide the service. They do that for substitutes also. But it has to be fair and equal across the board as to how it's administered. And, then we have relaxed requirements for substitute teachers also, because there has been such a shortage of them, especially in the pandemic time. And there's a disparity in how much, they're paid. And should they get benefits after so many hours? Are they enrolled in PERS after so much time? There's all of these things that need to also be sorted out. Plus, working conditions. Do you come in and are you given a handbook so that you know what the procedures for the school if you've never been there before? How does the school address substitute teachers to make sure that our children are safe, protected, and being taught while their regular teachers is gone?
Those are important issues. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm glad you're working on that. I have wondered, I've heard that substitute teachers don't make very much money, and I know that it's stressful for people to come into the classroom cold and try to fill in for the regular teacher. So it seems like difficult work.
Yes, and then there are different requirements for having just a substitute come into your classroom, and then as it turns into a long-term substitute position, the way that changes over and how the substitute is then incorporated into the pay scale and all of that. After how many days and amount of time and how long they are on that contract. So there's a lot to be considered. They're very valuable.
truly. Well, thank you. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for your excellent work. And thanks, too, for mentioning emergency preparedness, which is a subject close to my heart. We have an emergency preparedness committee meeting today at the Nehalem Bay Fire and Rescue Station, where we're going to learn more about what they're doing up there. So I'm looking forward to that. Good.
North County has done a wonderful job of working out preparedness, especially. They have been very dedicated to it. They have wonderful plans, and it's my hope that all of their wonderful plans and their enthusiasm will trickle to the rest of the county.
I agree with you completely. And more than trickling, they're actively working on sharing their knowledge with other preparedness groups, and I'm super grateful for that.
I am too.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Do we have anything else for the senator? Do we have Representative Javity with us today?
Oh, I'm here. Yes.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. Let's see. I'll keep this brief. Senator Weber did a good job of covering everything that we have on our legislative kind of radars here. But I don't think I heard her mention the concerns over the prepaid fishing licenses. This has been a concern up and down the coast, but especially from our vendors here in Tillamook County and Clatsop County, where the ODFW is going to sunset the prepaid fishing and shellfish licenses and implement a new cutting-edge system to make it so we can buy those digitally at the site or at home. The problem is that the system's not working as they hoped, and so the vendors are not able to process those licenses as quickly, and it's having an economic impact on their lives. It's also making it hard for people, once they have this digital copy of their license, to show it to law enforcement if they're stopped and asked for their license. So Senator Weber and I and the Coastal Caucus had a long chat with ODFW last week, and they assured us that this is something that's important to them to get fixed, and they're working on it. And so we'll update you with some more info on that, but this is something that we will make sure gets resolved for those that come to visit our community to fish, but also those that are helping them get the license to fish illegally. Last week, Commissioner Olson said, hey, wouldn't it be great if you guys gave us kind of a preview of what ballot measures are coming up? Again, I'm not going to give you my opinion on the ballot measures. We'll let the voters kind of decide how they're going to vote on those. But just briefly, there are 5 ballot initiatives, and they will be on your ballot. They're important, so it's important to be familiar with them and, of course, read about them in your the voters' pamphlet. The first one is going to Measure 115. That's going to give the Oregon State Legislature, that's Suzanne and I and everybody else has been elected there, the power to impeach elected state executives like the governor or the Secretary of State, et cetera, which is a power that is currently not available in the state of Oregon, but is available in other states. So if we have leaders that are not following the law and behaving inappropriately, they can be impeached by the legislature. Measure 116 will establish an independent public service commission. Actually, it's a compensation commission. That commission is going to determine the salaries of public officials like the governor, the state legislators, judges. So instead of the legislature just giving themselves a pay raise or the governor, this independent public service compensation commission would have the task of doing that to make sure everybody's compensated fairly. So if you think that that's an important piece to have in place, you would want to vote yes on that. If you think that that sounds not quite ready for prime time, you'd vote no. Measure 117 implements a ranked choice of voting. You may have heard of this if you've watched the news or if you've been in a state that does this. This is going to be for most state and federal elections, including presidential elections. This will change how we vote on those on our ballots, and this will be implemented around 2028, but instead of just picking, one person for the office, you would have to vote on everybody running for that office. So let's say it was state legislature for House District 32, and there were 3 of us running. Then you'd rank one of us first, one of us second, one of us third, and then they would run that through their math formula, and that would whoever got the most votes with that format would win. They're hoping that will cut down on some of the partisan and polarization that happens during these elections. Measure 118 we've talked about a lot. That's the next one. That's the one that increases corporate taxes by adding 3% tax on sales over $25 million, and then that revenue would be redistributed back to Oregonians. And then Measure 119 is the final one. This one is kind of more of just a what do we call these? Just like a logistical type of thing. It's going to require cannabis businesses to have labor peace agreements with unions, ensuring that businesses remain neutral in union communications with employees. So this will help protect worker rights in the cannabis industry. So those are the 5 measures you'll see on your ballot, and encourage everybody that is going to vote to read up on those and think through the pros and cons. Lastly, just my schedule for the week. We've got a Coastal Caucus monthly meeting coming up again here. We just had one, but we'll be doing that again. We're going to be talking about all sorts of issues like that eelgrass issue. We have, by the way, had some conversations with industry. They're definitely on board, but the actual stakeholder group we're continuing to pull people into that so that we make sure if there is a policy that comes out of this problem, that everybody has had a chance to weigh in on that. I'll have a task force meeting this week. We'll be talking about health and safety of behavioral health workers. And then later next week, this weekend, boy, the time flies. Astoria is having a grand opening of a community-based outpatient clinic. And then we also have, if you're ever up in Astoria, there's a Liberty Theater up there that puts on great productions for the arts. They're having a gala, and so we'll be up there kind of celebrating that with them and having an opportunity to see what's coming, the latest and the greatest, and for the arts. And we're like such a kind of a cool location to go do that at. So that's and then next week, in 2 weeks, we have legislative days coming up. So I'm sure Senator Weber is as well, but we're working on getting our legislative concepts. That's our ideas for bills all drafted and sent over to the Capitol for them to start making them look like bill ideas for us to talk about in the upcoming session. So I encourage anybody who's got a problem that thinks the state needs to do something about to reach out to me via email or if you see me at the store, feel free to stop me. But we'll get those. We'll talk about that, and if there's any that we can become possibly a policy, we'll get those turned over to the Capitol as well to see if we can get a bill out of them. But that's all I have for this weekly report.
Thank you so much. Do we have any questions for Representative Javity? Well, I appreciate all of the things that you're working on. Thanks for the update, the legislation update. That's very interesting and helpful. And thanks for mentioning the eelgrass issue and also the issue with the licensing of paper licenses converting to electronic licenses. We continue to get, at least I do, so I assume my fellow commissioners do, continue to get letters from concerned retailers, vendors, people in the industry about the negative impacts, as you just mentioned, that'll have in their industry. And forgive me if I'm not terribly confident that the state is going to come up with an app that's going to work really well, even if they said they will. When I bought my own shellfish license recently, I asked the guys at Tillamook Sporting Goods, because I haven't been able to use that app successfully. So I go and get one in person. So I will also be impacted by that change. And so I asked the guys at Tillamook Sporting Goods, hey, what do people think about that app? And they just busted out laughing. And they said, it is terrible. It has like 1 star. It's just the worst. So it would have to be considerably better than the current app to be really effective and not negatively impact our businesses. So I'm grateful that you're still working on that.
You're welcome. We'll keep up the fight.
Yeah, thank you. All right, anything else for Representative Javity? Thank you, as always, for being with us. We really appreciate the Coastal Caucus and all your work. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's move on to the Tillamook County Community Health Center.
Good morning, Commissioner Bell. Ed was unable to be here, but I do have his report. If you give me just a second to open it. There we go. I had it. There it is. Okay. Well, good morning from the community health centers. We have well child exams. School is now in full swing, and no matter what grade your child is about to enter, there's always a back to school checklist of to-dos. It's a good idea to add a visit to your family's primary care provider or pediatrician for an annual wellness exam and sports physical to that list. And as a bonus, with our current wellness incentive program, you can receive a free gift card when you complete a wellness visit. Wellness visits can include wellness exams, sports physicals, and immunizations at Tillamook County Community Health Centers between now and December 31st, 2024. After your wellness visit, ages 3 through 6 will be mailed a $15 gift card, and ages 7 plus will be mailed a $25 gift card. Schedule an appointment to live well and be well today at 503-842-3938. The American Academy of Pediatrics recommends children keep up to date on their childhood vaccinations and well child visits. The annual physical gives the healthcare provider a chance to give the child a thorough physical exam and also addresses any emotional, developmental, or social concerns. Learn more about what to expect at an annual well child or sports physical exam and the benefit going on at our Facebook page. Grant and organizational updates, Overdose Awareness Day event and National Recovery Month. The Tillamook County Public Health held the Overdose Awareness event the last week of August at Blue Heron. The annual community event focuses on recovery, healing from grief, and raising awareness on how to prevent overdose. The event had over 150 participants. We would like to thank our community partners for helping to make it happen. With the momentum gained from the event, we now celebrate National Recovery Month. With the right treatment, support, and resources, recovery is possible for everyone. Throughout this month, we will be sharing resources from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, often known as SAMHSA, on our Facebook page. We encourage anyone with questions about addiction to schedule a visit with our behavioral health or primary care providers to learn more about how we can help, including offering medication-assisted treatment for opioid use disorder. Together, we can make a difference in the lives of those in or seeking recovery from mental health and substance use disorders. And I'll just chime in. I had an opportunity to attend the Overdose Awareness Day event, and it was a fabulous event at Blue Heron. So it's one to keep your eyes open for in the future. Lots of great information from just a huge array of service providers in our community. So upcoming events. Last week, Oregon Health Authority reported about a new type of invasive mosquito identified in Oregon. Oh dear, the Aedes aegypti. Sorry if I mangled that. The mosquito is typically found across the southeastern United States. However, last month it was discovered to be in Jackson County in the Medford area. This invasive mosquito is a concern as it can carry and transmit various diseases that have serious health consequences, such as the Zika virus, the chikungunya, dengue and yellow fever. You can learn more about how to identify and protect yourself from this mosquito from resources shared on our Facebook page. Again, forgive me for butchering all of those different disease names, but it is something we all want to be aware of as mosquitoes start bringing those to our area. I think often, I know for me, when I think about mosquitoes, I don't worry about them here on the coast. I don't tend to use repellent, etc., but it's something that we definitely want to think about as they tend to move into our area. And with that, that will finish the health department's report.
Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate it. Well, we don't have with us today Nehalem Bay Health Center and Pharmacy. I was up there yesterday at the pharmacy and paused for a minute to look at construction. The construction of the new healthcare center is proceeding, and it's very exciting. So that's really good news, something positive that's happening in the community. So we will move on then with Tillamook Family Counseling Center and Frank Hannah Williams.
Good morning, Commissioners. Frank Hannah Williams, Director, Tillamook Family Counseling Center, Behavioral Health Services for Tillamook County residents. I have a brief update today. This is, as you know, the month of September, and it is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. And I'd like to just highlight, we have a number of activities that we're involved with this month, and I just want to highlight one of them is that we will be engaged in providing the QPR training, the question, persuade, and refer, and training. And on the 23rd, Monday the 23rd, our prevention coordinator, Sarah Ermer, will be doing a QPR training with the Neahkani School District. And in order to provide QPR training to district staff. So that is kind of an example of QPR coming in and being able to provide some support to a group of individuals in a particular location. And I've mentioned before, if you have any concerns or any questions regarding us coming into to your workplace, and in this situation it's coming into the district, the Neahkani district, we would be more than willing to talk about that and would work to make that happen. Lastly, on October 8th, as a part of our partnership with Northwest Parenting, we will be providing a parent and caregiver resources workshop. This will be done virtually via Zoom. It will be Tuesday, October 8th from 6 to 7:30. And at that time, we would ask people to come and share about available resources while connecting with other parents and caregivers using this convenient and virtual environment. To register for this event, you can call the agency 503-842-8201, or you can register for the event via email. You would, at this email address, Melissa, MELISSASC, at tfcc.org. One more time, Melissa, SC, at tfcc.org. That is my report for this morning, and I'll take questions if there are any.
Thank you, Frank. Do we have any questions for Frank? If not, I'll say thank you very much, and we can move on to emergency management. Randy Thorpe.
Good morning, Commissioner.
Good morning.
It's a wonderful day on the coast. Anyway, first of all, I'd like you to meet our Emergency Preparedness Coordinator. Her name is Ann Moorhead. She'll be here for the next 11 months to help with emergency preparedness effort. And I think we have her on the line, so I think I'll turn a little bit of time so she can introduce herself to everybody.
Wonderful.
See if she can unmute. Well, I see her number. Can we unmute for her? Oh, there she is.
How about this?
Go ahead,
Can you hear
Ann.
me now?
Yes.
Oh, perfect.
Yes, we
Okay,
can.
sorry about that. My name is Ann Moorhead. I'm a Rare AmeriCorps member, which is a statewide program that aims to build capacity in rural communities. I will be working this year with Randy Thorpe, doing emergency management for Tillamook County. And I'm just really excited to kind of learn all I can about the community and help out as much as I can during these 11 months. So please get in touch if you have anything you want to talk about, whether it's emergency management, the RARE program, or anything else.
Thanks, Ann.
Thank you,
She'll
Ann.
be,
Thanks for.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Sorry.
Randy.
Like I say, she'll be here for 11 months, and I am going to be dragging her around with me for the next couple of weeks. So hopefully you'll be able to meet her in person over the next few weeks. She will be attending the Emergency Management Advisory Council meeting with us this afternoon, and she's also going to be at the Preparedness Summit on Friday. So I think that'll give her a good exposure to all the people here in Tillamook County that she'll be working with. So we're really excited that I've got somebody to help pick up my slack that I'm leaving out there. So, but anyway, other news in the emergency management world, our TC4 group is continuing their planning efforts for the Great Shakeout. Now, this is going to be on October 17th at 10:17. So we want you to plan on doing the drop, cover, and hold. And then when the shaking stops, we need you to evacuate to your nearest emergency assembly site. It's kind of like what we did last year, and we're just hoping we get more participants. And evacuation maps can be found on the Dagami site, or you can visit our County Emergency Management webpage, and there's a link to the Great American Shakeout there on the left column, and we're putting all the information there from the various groups. So we have a place that people can go to view the information necessary to participate. The other thing is September 11th, which is tomorrow. The Tillamook County Local Emergency Planning Committee, what they commonly call the LEPC, is going to hold their first meeting. We're trying to get it reactivated, and it's going to be basically held by the Oregon State Fire Marshal's Office. And what the LEPC does, it brings together the regulated industries, emergency responders, medical professionals, local government, water providers, community members to plan and practice a comprehensive response to accidental hazardous material events and emergencies. And we're moving that to more of an all hazard emergencies planning. So they're going to be focusing their work on substances the EPA has designed the most dangerous, and the Tillamook County LEPC has gone, like I say, it's gone dormant for a while, and this is an opportunity to bring it back alive. The Fire Marshal's Office, as we kind of developed a very extensive list of invites, and she sent out quite a few invites to that, and that's the least to get it started, and we'll be adding and subtracting from that list as we go on. So kind of excited to get that started again and be able to have one more group to help with planning in a very, very important area, especially with the hazardous material, because we do have a few of industries here that have regulated substances that have to be reported on monthly and quarterly. And so this will really help those companies do what they need to do to stay compliant. And again, I just want to remind you all that I'm sure you started on that go bag and your preparedness kits. And so just keep going. And as the phrase that came up from TC4, be prepared, not scared, which is kind of fun. So anyway, with that, I'll turn it back to the commissioner.
Thank you, Randy. And thanks, Ann, for joining us. Nice to meet you electronically. I look forward to meeting you this afternoon at the Emergency Management Committee meeting. That'll be great. And we look forward to working with you here. There's so much good work happening with preparedness groups in Tillamook County and and there is a great need for your services. So we're really happy to have you. And with that, we can move on to the Board of Commissioners and start with Commissioner Scar, please.
Good morning. Thank you. A couple things I wanted to add on to Senator Weber's just reminder to everybody. We're having the Tillamook Working Lands and Waters Tour Thursday, and we invited elected officials, board members that have been elected to organizations across the county, mayors, managers, that sort of folks to this tour. We have 30 people confirmed, so we're excited to take this tour. And for anyone who's not really familiar, it's an opportunity for folks in the community to get out into a working forest and visit with the foresters that are actually organizing that work out there, planning for our cuts and our replanting and all of those things, along with how we maintain our roads, our culverts, etc. Many people know that the Private Forest Accord is a set of legislative actions that were put in place following a really sort of groundbreaking conversation between the forest management industry and environmental groups in Oregon. And they went behind closed doors and just really hashed out, what can we do? How can industry survive and thrive while the environmental groups can feel really good about sort of how we're protecting our forests and our endangered species, et cetera. And this was done specifically for private landowners. It's separate from what ended up happening at the state level in the Habitat Conservation Plan. But both were really seeking the same outcome. So the Private Forest Accord has now been in place for a couple of years. There's work being done under that. And part of the tour that we're going to see on Thursday is areas that are starting to show the efforts of that, so that we can really see on the ground and understand on the ground what those changes were and how they're impacting how our forest companies operate and how we are protecting our lands and our species. So it's an exciting opportunity on this tour in the forest section. We will also visit one of our local dairies, as we always do, to really give people the opportunity to ask questions and see the operations there. We have just state-of-the-art operations at our dairy farms, and it's really fun to see. I've been on this tour a couple of times and had the opportunity to see the automated feeding that happens, the way that milk is, the cows walk in of their own accord to the milking station. They're milked, it's tracked, which cow, how much fat in the milk, all of these things that are required by food safety, as well as helpful when you are working to maximize your business, right? Do the best you can with the least amount of inputs and the best kind of outputs, more milk, less methane. So really, really great opportunity to learn about that. And then the final one is always a fisheries stop. And I believe that this time it will again be at the Trask River Fish Hatchery, which many of you know is near and dear to my heart, as they have a new facility there that was opened about 3 years ago, right about the time my husband retired, after he led the effort to build the new facility through ODFW. And it is also state-of-the-art facility, allows you to really see how hatchery propagation happens and what the best practices are around that. So in Tillamook County, we are very proud of our natural resource industries. We are proud of how we manage them, how they work together. The water that is coming into the fish hatchery is coming off of, in this case, the forest at Trask Hatchery, but it has to also partner with the water that comes off of our harvest, our grown lands for the dairies, et cetera. So this group really looks at all of that together and figures out how can we do the very best in Tillamook County. So great tour. We will be putting one together probably in the spring that we hope to open up to the general public. So I just put that out there as a teaser. If you're listening and haven't been on one, haven't been invited yet, we will be doing a public tour soon. So that's exciting. Along the same sort of line of natural resources, I was at the Board of Forestry meeting last week. We were talking about the forest management plan and how that will be constructed to implement the Habitat Conservation Plan. We had a good conversation between the Forest Trust land counties, which are all of us, who deeded our lands to the state for them to manage on our behalf and behalf of those residents of the state of Oregon. It was a good conversation, just really looking at how do we want to build our forest management plan. We will be modeling about 5 different scenarios, and we'll be looking at different outputs of those scenarios, including things like how many board feet can be cut, how much revenue can be generated, how much carbon can be sequestered, what will the forest canopy look like, how will these things progress into the future at different kinds of harvests, different harvest levels, etc. So really just taking a look to say if we want to get the best outcomes for the greatest permanent value on our forest, how do we do that? What ages do we cut? What areas do we cut? What are we going to commit to provide that greatest permanent value? So that was a great conversation. We will end up, I believe, having 2 more conversations along that line over the next 6 to 12 months. One of them will be coming back together with the department, which they will say, okay, we've looked at all your inputs and this is exactly what we will model for you. And then the meeting after that will be looking to say, here's what the models show. What direction do we want to go in this forest management plan? So it's a iterative process that we have the opportunity as Forest Trust Land Counties to sit at the table with the Board of Forestry for, which is a great opportunity and really a shift from where we've been over the last probably 4 or 5 years, where our relationship and interactions with the Board of Forestry have been more stilted, more of a comment only, not an actual conversation. So excited about the conversation, and there's much more to do in that front, but I encourage people to follow along because it really is a great conversation balancing the greatest permanent value actions on our forest. So Friday and Monday were Association of Oregon Counties days, which means we met in our various committees to hear what was coming up in legislation for the long session. We heard largely from state agencies over the last couple of days to understand what they were putting in for at the state level. There are a lot of great funding asks going in that would be very beneficial to counties, and I won't go through them all, but there are a lot of pieces here that are on our radar and that we will be actively supporting to work to get additional funding to our counties, as well as influencing regulatory change that will be benefit for our counties. So just I'm going to highlight one committee because I am the co-chair of the Transportation and Community Development Committee, and that committee heard from the Department of Land Conservation and Development. Really, their funding asks this year are focused largely around housing, which is great. We all know that that is a high priority in the state of Oregon. We need to build more housing. So their legislative asks include funding to provide technical assistance, to provide grants to local government, and to provide staff on their end to make all that happen. So we're excited about where they're going and hopeful that many of those funding bills will be in fact passed, and we will be able to access both the funding, the technical assistance related to that. The other big body of work that committee is tracking and working with the state on is a large funding bill for ODOT. ODOT, as we all know have heard, I'm sure, is really struggling to be appropriately funded for maintenance. And we are working with ODOT because the counties themselves also struggle to be appropriately funded for maintenance, as we all know. And we are hopeful that as this bill concept, which is all it is at the moment, works its way through the legislature, that we will remain a strong partner with ODOT. Currently, state funding goes through what we call the 50-30-20 split, and that is 50% of funds go to ODOT, 30% go to counties, and 20% go to cities, and that is for vehicle registration fees, gas, tax, etc. So those state highway fund dollars that are raised are shared across what we the transportation system, because nobody drives just on state roads, just on county roads, or just on city roads to get where you're going. There's always a mix of all three. So the system must be adequately funded. And that 50-30-20 split has been in place for many years and is something that we're working hard to make sure remains, even as potential new funding sources may come online, such as road user charges, et cetera. So lots to come for that. You'll hear more from me as we go forward about both what's happening at the state level as well as what we need at the county level, because we need to keep our voices active and elevated to ensure that that 50-30-20 remains in place and that we are able to keep our roads working, if you will. Yeah, I think I'll stop there. And I'll turn it back to you, Chair Bell. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Commissioner Starr? If not, we can move on to Commissioner Olson.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'll mention a few things this morning. Last Saturday, my wife and I attended an event in Garibaldi. It was called Kyler's Big Heart Benefit, and it primarily was for a family that suffered an untimely death, and then also a fundraiser for three of our volunteer fire departments, mostly volunteer, in Bay City, Garibaldi, and Rockaway Beach. And I think it was quite successful. There were a couple of bands, something like 240 or 250 people in the big tent at Garibaldi, and good time was had by all. I think it's important to point out that fire departments across America, something close to 70% of all the firefighters in America are volunteers. And obviously, without those people and their commitment of time and even their own safety in many cases, we'd be in a world of hurt big time, because we wouldn't be able to do the things they do. And as they pointed out, they fight structure fires. They go into some absolutely dangerous, horrible conditions. And occasionally they pull a cat out of a tree. So they really do it all around America. And so this was a successful event, I think, for them. And there are many volunteers there as well. And I did have, they asked me to have a table to talk about our radio bond, which I did. And we had some handout material, and that is moving forward. And I'll talk more about that as we get closer to October. But basically, there is a measure that the county has on the ballot now that you will receive in mid-October. And it's 29-180, a financial measure asking voters to support a $24.4 million bond levy repayable over 16 years, along with the $2 million that the county has received through a grant. And that would replace all the radios that are in use in the public safety system across the county, mainly including police, the sheriff's office, all the fire departments, not just the three I mentioned, our ambulance service, public works, and also Tillamook PUD. And it would be a coordinated effort to have the same type of equipment that can all talk to each other, and as well as others outside the county, and would be essentially state of the art. The system we have now goes back 25 years or more, and it was actually beginning to age before iPhones were even invented or put on the market. So stop and think about that for a moment, that the systems, like a lot of electronics, do become obsolete and need updating. So more on that one as we get a little closer. Tomorrow we have our monthly budget roundtable meeting, which is the leadership team at the county together with our outside budget committee. And we're talking about a number of changes, both on the revenue side and expense side, to bring our long-term financial plan for the general fund, particularly, into balance. Because if we do nothing over a period of several years, we're going to find ourselves in a multi-million-dollar deficit position where the revenues do not equal the expenditures. And of course, there's two ways to deal with that. One is to increase revenues where it's possible. The other is to decrease expenditures. And I think what will happen, there'll be a combination of both. But it takes some planning up front, because the numbers get pretty large. They get well into the millions of dollars over the next couple of years. And if we do nothing now, then it becomes quite drastic. So it's best to start up front and work your way through some of the modifications and changes and get where we need to be. So we'll be continuing that process tomorrow. A couple of other items. I received a letter from Coos County where they are asking quite a number of questions about the offshore wind that the federal government is proposing just off the southern Oregon coast. And there are two main areas. One is right near the California border. The other is closer to Coos Bay and Reedsport. And the Coos County Commission has asked all the coastal counties, including Tillamook County, to sign on to a letter, which I'll discuss at a board meeting with my fellow commissioners. But essentially, they're asking a lot of what ifs. And I think that very, very realistic questions, because very recently there was a major failure of one of the large ocean wind turbines off the East Coast. And there was considerable damage, environmental and otherwise, a leakage of fuels and lubricants and so on into the ocean. And then there was debris scattered all over a good share of the East Coast. And so we need to have some of those questions answered for sure. So as we go forward, we'll talk more about that one. Also, this Saturday in Pacific City, we're having our FEMA flood meeting with the community, and Sarah Absher will be there to explain what's going on. But as we've talked about so many times, those matters are quite serious and will have something to say about future development or even replacement development in county. And so people want to know more, and we've been presented with several options by the federal government and have yet to choose one. But I think it's time that we talked about it some more as we know more. And then finally, I'll just conclude with I'll be in Salem on Thursday to vote on behalf of Tillamook County for some actions that are contemplated by the Council of Forest Trust Lands. And Commissioner Scar has been following that very closely, but at one point, there were after the Board of Forestry made some decisions on how to go forward with the Habitat Conservation Plan. Then it became a bit of a financial issue, and there were as many as 15 options looked at, and it's been narrowed to 3. And I would characterize them as bad, worse, and even worse yet. But nonetheless, we're going to need to make some selections, or maybe argue that we take it back to further discussion. So more to come on that. And I'll before I leave that, I'll just ask Commissioner Scar if she wanted to comment on that. That's a pretty important meeting for Tillamook County, and we do have a seat at the table and have had for quite some time. But there's a pretty important vote coming up on Thursday, and I will be over in Salem to vote on behalf of Tillamook County. So Commissioner Scar, could you add a paragraph or two to what I just said?
Sure. Thank you, Commissioner Olson. Thank you for bringing that up. So Commissioner Olson is the voting member for what we call a Council of Forest Trust Land Counties, and I am the vice chair, which is a non-voting seat. So there are 2 of us at the table and 2 of us in conversation, but Commissioner Olson will be the one who, if we do take a vote for an official position during this meeting, which is a possibility, he will be the one casting the vote on behalf of Tillamook County. We will be talking about this at our board meeting on Wednesday, with the potential for a local vote if we need to take one, and to bring Commissioner Bell fully up to speed on the conversations, because this is important. Those of you who have been following this know we have informally called it the Small Table Group. Commissioner Yamamoto was the original Tillamook County seat at the Small Table Group. As Commissioner Olson stated, came up with about 15 options for how to replace revenue to trust land counties that we know we will lose under the Habitat Conservation Plan. That was winnowed down by the group in partnership with the governor's office to 3 options. Again, as Commissioner Olson characterized them, bad, worse, and even worse than that. So the option that has risen to the top, and I will talk briefly about this, is the one which would have to be in partnership with our schools. Our Forest Trust Land Counties have a unique way of funding our schools, different than every other school across the state. Because we have timber revenue, a portion of timber revenue goes to each of our schools as local revenue. So what that means is that when the state has a school budget and they apply their funding formula across their budget, we receive less in state funding formula because we have local revenue available. One of the options considered by the governor's office and the trust land counties is to take that local revenue that currently is guaranteed to schools and to bring a portion of it back to county services and to request that the state, which funds every other school district across the state of Oregon, fill in for us what we would lose. The schools are not excited about this, and I want to be very clear that the schools are not excited about this. They are concerned that any money removed from their funding formula as an overall state system will not be replaced, and that it would hurt all schools. And we are very, very thoughtful of that. We are looking at this option again as the least worst, because if you are following the media at all around what is being prepared at the state legislature this year, there is a huge focus on school funding. The governor and the legislature have agreed to 5 priority areas. If you are on Representative Gomberg's newsletter, he spelled those out very clearly and nicely for us all this week. But I will tell you, the number one priority for the legislature this year is adequate funding for K-12 school systems. The only reason, and I repeat this because I really want to be clear, the only reason that Tillamook County is even considering further conversation on this option is because there is this very active schools conversation happening. We are also very, very clear that we will not, for any reason, push forward with this if it's going to harm schools. That is not something we would ever want to do. We've been in conversation with our school superintendents locally, as well as the lobbyists for superintendents and school boards at the state level. We understand their concerns and frankly their fears, which we share. Anytime we all have to look to the state for a solution, it's a frightening thing. No offense to the representative and senator who are on call with us today. It is just hard for county priorities to make it through the state legislature. So we understand completely the concerns, and we will be talking about whether or not Tillamook County would support moving this forward for further discussion. So that will be the 3 commissioner conversation, that will happen at our Board of Commissioners meeting this week. And then Commissioner Olson will be casting our vote should a vote take place at the Council of Forest Trust Land Counties meeting, which will occur on Thursday this week between 3 and 5 o'clock in Salem. It is a public meeting. It will be available remotely. It is through the Association of Oregon Counties. You can find it on their website if you would like to watch that meeting. Yeah, so that was more than a couple of paragraphs, Commissioner Olson. It is a very complicated conversation, and Tillamook County is probably the most conflicted and challenged county because of the amount of timber revenue that goes to our schools and the implications of even looking at changing anything in that formula. But as we have discussed, we are looking at revenue shortfalls at the county. We are looking at a reduction in revenue of as much as 30% due to the Habitat Conservation Plan. And in our challenge and struggle to maintain adequate county services, we are looking at what state mechanisms exist to put more money to counties, and that is a mechanism in existence with the state school fund. So not saying that we're all for it, not saying that we're all against it, saying it's still a live conversation. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Commissioner Scar. That's all I have today. I'll only say one last thing about this vote coming up is we intend to do no harm. I guess the same as medical personnel say, first do no harm, and that's exactly what I intend to do. We'll select the least worst, and it could be that we'll argue to put this back on the table and ask for the governor's office to come forward and work through some more options, because this may not be the last word. And I guess the only other thing I'll add is the decisions that are made are not final. These go as recommendations to the governor's office, and then the governor's office can actually do something slightly different or a whole lot different. And so it's a continuing effort to sort all this out, and it may or may not have the outcome everyone wants, but it's a process. So with that, I'll stop talking, Commissioner Bell, and turn it back to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you to both of my colleagues for that interesting conversation. It seems like the proposal that Commissioner Scarves is talking about seems like a non-starter to me, in the sense that it seems unlikely that we would get any kind of firm, into the future, forever guarantee that the Board of Education would continue to fund our school districts at their current funding level and make up for the difference. Because at some point they would have trouble justifying, well, why are these particular school districts getting more than the basic state funding level? And so I just don't see them agreeing to it. But I could be wrong. I'll be happy to be wrong if that's true. Let's see. Well, I wanted to talk about a couple things. Last night I was at the TBCC board meeting where I'm the chair. And so I wanted to give you a little construction update on the health education building. The construction has begun. It was the first time I had gone to the campus since construction began, and so I realized that I didn't know how to get in. So just in case any of you find yourself in that situation, the former entrance to TBCC off of Marlf Loop does not exist anymore. That road is gone, and so now you go down Marlf Loop and turn onto Brookfield, and eventually there will be an entrance into the college off of Brookfield. But currently that is a construction-only entrance, and so you can't get in that way. So if you're a visitor to the college, you will enter from 3rd Street at the fairgrounds. So at where you would go, or where you would exit or turn in for fairgrounds parking, that's where you come in through that. It's actually called Poop Road, which surprised me that I learned last night that that's the official name, because people walk their dogs in there. So that's horrible, but true. So you drive in that way through the fairgrounds field to get to the college, but staff are parking up in the newly lined parking lot adjacent the PRI building on 3rd Street. So if you've driven down 3rd Street, you've seen a lot more cars parked up there by the PRI building. That's where all the TBCC staff are parking, and they're just walking across the road, which is, pleasant in the summer and will be wet and windy in the winter. So I feel for them for that, but that's the parking situation. The construction is progressing on budget. The timeline is very shortly off because, maybe a month, not much, but the reason is because once they got into the ground, they found things that were unexpected, which I understand is common, but you just don't know what you don't know until you get in there. So it appears that that particular area had previously been used as some kind of dumping site. So there's all kinds of weird material in there, like railroad ties, etc. So that all of that has to come out, and all of it has to be replaced with compactable soil. And so they're in that process now. So now the rush is on to get through with the groundwork before the rains come. So hopefully they'll pull that off. Maybe we'll have a nice sunny, dry September, and they can get done with the groundwork before the rains hit. So the building is progressing. The second cohort, they're accepting applications now for the second cohort of nursing students. They already have 8, and 8 is a full class. They could take more than 8, and those applications are open through October 1st. So if anyone is listening who has been thinking about a nursing career, or someone who might be interested in a nursing career, those applications are still open until October. And this is a great opportunity for somebody to stay at home, go to college, become an RN, get a really great family wage job, and be able to stay right here if they want to and work in their own community. So I'm thrilled to be a part of that. Something else interesting that we learned last night at the board meeting is that now, because there are electronic applications to college, there is a tremendous surge in fraud, in fraudulent applications, not just to our college, but to colleges everywhere, to community colleges and state and private colleges everywhere. With the advent of electronic applications comes the advent of scammers. And so people are electronically applying to colleges trying to get financial aid, and then they're not real students and they'll never show up. And some of them are actual fraudulent individuals and some of them are bots. And so that was interesting. We got to learn last night about how colleges are processing applications and the screening tools that they're using to throw out all of the fraudulent applications. So that was news to the board. We just didn't realize that was going on. And luckily for us, it's a smaller issue than it is for big colleges. And apparently in big colleges, before they realized what was happening, they would think classes were full, they'd hire more staff, and then they'd find out that a bunch of the students they thought were coming to school were never real students at all. And so that hasn't happened to us yet, but there's still a process about going through and getting rid of false applications. So that's wild, and it just proves the point that the bad guys never sleep. I wanted to talk for a minute about, I had the opportunity to go to Alaska and visit my brother, and I was thinking about fishing because we were fishing. He's a fisherman, and of course, you know, I never really stopped thinking about the FEMA biological opinion and everything that's happening with that, or the threat of that in Tillamook County, and I was thinking about endangered species because my brother lives on an island in Southeast Alaska. It's Prince of Wales Island. And so this is a large island with very little industry other than logging, which is drying up now because it happened in the last century. And they tell me mostly in the 60s, there's still a little logging going on now, but it happened early 50 years ago. And the forests are slower growing, so their growing cycle is about 120 years. So that's interesting. But so what I'm getting at is that their coho fishing is pretty good, but their king salmon, Chinook, is completely dried up. They have a shortened season this year. They just don't have the returns on the runs. And so this is an island off of the coast of BC. And, you know, this is an Alaskan island where that's happening. Their Chinook season is drying up. And they don't have any of the things that are associated with fish runs drying up here. For example, they don't have dams. They don't have any drained wetlands. They don't have like their vast beaver warrens everywhere. None of the wetlands have been drained. They don't have commercial industry. They don't have development in floodplains other than in little, very particular villages with ports, little tiny villages. The whole huge island only has 6,000 people. So they don't have any of the things that the lawsuit, the FEMA lawsuit, is associating with endangered species. All of the development and floodplain stuff on this island, they don't have any of that, and yet their fish run is drying up, which tells me that it's something that's happening in the ocean. So I want to know more about what is happening in the ocean, because certainly what we do on the land affects our fish runs, but not exclusively. And in places where there's very little happening on the land, the fish just aren't coming back. However, I'll end that sad story with a lovely note. There's a river 5-minute walk from my brother's house where the pink salmon were in, and it reminded me of Meriwether Lewis's journal when they came west, and he was talking about the river is so full of salmon, you could walk across the backs of salmon from shore to shore. That's what it was like with the pink salmon. The river was so full of salmon that it was shore to shore. It was just thrilling to witness. So that was awesome. Another thing that's interesting is that they have sea otters there, and the fishermen I was talking to were telling me that the sea otters, I said, oh my God, sea otters, so cute. And they're huge. They're like 6 feet long. And you can see them from a distance. And you know, I really like otters. so I was enthusiastic about it. But the fisherman I was talking to said, yeah, those guys eat all the Dungeness crab. So they said that their Dungeness crab industry has been decimated by sea otters. So that's anecdotal, but it's interesting. I think that's enough for me for now. So I'm glad to be back. Thanks to Doug for covering for me while I was gone. And let's move on to the city of Manzanita. Do we have Linda Kozlowski with us? Because I think Mayor Stock had to get off the call. Linda, or anyone from Manzanita? Star 6. Okay, let's move on to Nehalem. Hello?
Commissioner Bell,
Yes.
This is Linda.
Hi, Linda.
I'm calling from my car on the way to the dentist's office. So far,
Oh, so kind. Thanks for joining us.
bad audio. I just wanted to report, we had a wonderful meeting yesterday with our planning commission and our city council, focused on a comprehensive plan, and we had a just terrific presentation about the middle housing and both the challenges and opportunities. So we learned a lot about what we can do to advance workforce housing. And with that, I appreciate all I learned on your meetings in the morning, and that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. I look forward to seeing you this afternoon at the emergency management meeting. Thank you for hosting. Well, let's go on to Nehalem, Wheeler. How about Rockaway Beach?
Good morning, Charles McNeely, Mayor of Rockaway Beach. Am I off mute?
Good morning, Mayor. We can hear you.
Great, thank you. So Public Works is scheduled to begin the first project stemming from the 2024 flood feasibility study. The project will replace an undersized culvert on South 2nd Avenue near Coral Street. This particular project is very important to me because back when I was canvassing in the 2022 election, I talked to residents in this area, and they shared with me the flooding problems they have every winter. As a resident, I went to the council meeting and spoke about their challenges. When I came mayor, I lobbied for a budget funding to do the study. And then this recent budget cycle lobbied to have the first project done. So this is a project that I'm particularly excited about happening in our community. It's an example of how if you get involved and bring information to City Council about what's going on in the community, things do happen. Second, an updated supervisory control and data acquisition module is set to be installed at the Jetty Creek Water Treatment Plant. This new SCADA module will allow direct communication between the water plant, McMillan Creek Water Reservoir, and pumping stations. This is the final upgrade to bring all water system components online and under a single program. The program improves remote monitoring and data tracking and will send out automated alerts to staff as needed. This project was preceded by cybersecurity updates at all facilities and will reduce operating costs compared with the old SCADA system. And we all love to hear reduced costs in any project. Our fire department reported that they are now authorized to utilize the Nixle alert system. If you're not signed up for it, I suggest you get signed up for it. It's something that I really appreciate those alerts. Our finance director, Marnie Johnson, will introduce a new cash allocation report in our monthly City Council staff reports beginning in October. This report will detail monthly cash holdings for each of the city's funds. She is also happy to report total investment returns of nearly $120,000 for the months of July and August. On the kind of exciting side here, a short article about our Anchor Street Park project was published in the most recent League of Oregon Cities Local Focus magazine. It's great to see one of our projects recognized statewide. And then I'll end by just saying our City Council workshop is this Wednesday at 4:30 p.m., followed by our City Council meeting at 6 p.m., both at City Hall. And then on Thursday, we'll have our first Source Water Protection Plan Town Hall at 5:30 p.m. at City Hall. With that, I'll turn it back to you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mayor. We appreciate your report.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone on from the city of Garibaldi? Wait a moment for someone to unmute. Hello? How about the city of Bay City?
Good morning, Commissioner Bell. This is Leanne Welch. How are you this morning?
Good morning. I'm great. Thanks. How are you?
Good. So this evening at 6 o'clock, the City of Bay City will have our regular City Council meeting, and we are pleased to have you as our guest presenter tonight. I think that we'll be talking about the proposed transient lodging tax increase that the county is proposing, and what that means to the cities and what the city's choices are. So we really appreciate you coming to be our visitor this evening. So that's at 6 o'clock at the Bay City Hall. The other thing we've heard quite a bit today about is the Great Oregon Shakeout on October 17th at 10:17 a.m. So the Bay City Emergency Volunteers is actively participating and getting prepared for that for our community. And then we're also reaching out to the city of Tillamook and seeing if we can help support their efforts in emergency preparedness. The other discussion tonight is going to be a review of our accessory dwelling unit requirements, ADUs. These used to be kind of the mother-in-law houses, little tiny places for people to live on another property that has a full-time house on it. And we're discussing the SDC system development charges, which are charged to new development for the increased capacity of our water and sewer systems. So this is a discussion versus affordable housing and ADUs and meeting some of the state's goals for increased housing versus infrastructure needs. Eventually, if we continue to grow, our wastewater treatment plant will need to be increased. And also we have a outfall into the bay that will need some attention here in the next few years. So that's a discussion that we'll be having tonight. And so it's just very interesting, housing versus infrastructure instead of both. So that's one of the things that we'll be working on. And then September 28th, we have an opportunity to hear from our development director, Sarah Absher. Will be coming it's a Saturday, September 28th from 2 to 4 at Bay City, talking about the FEMA buy-off and what that means to the communities here locally. But here Commissioner Olson says Sarah's going to be visiting in South County, and she'll be up here in North County. And so that'll be an opportunity for residents, a public meeting, to come hear a little bit more about the FEMA buy-off. With that, a lot is going on in Bay City. We've had the Pearl Festival, and that was a huge success. And I want to thank everybody for everything that went into that event. So with that, I will turn it back to you, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let's move on to the city of Tillamook. Nathan George?
Good morning, Commissioner. You hear me okay?
Good morning, we can.
Good. I noticed the other cities were very, very distant sounding, so I'm hopeful that you can hear me okay. Thank you.
We can. Thank you.
Wonderful. You're welcome. So I do have several announcements this morning. In the police department, last week the police department held their quarterly all-staff police department meeting. During this meeting, training was held as well. And our friends from Tides of Change provide an update on best practices for investigations involving sexual assault, response, strangulation, and domestic violence cases. The Tillamook Police Department is committed to a trauma-informed response and maintaining our relationship with community partners like Tides of Change. During the quarterly department meeting last week, Executive Assistant Larson provided DNA evidence collection training. the Oregon State Police Crime Lab has implemented a new processing analysis of DNA, swabs, and samples. This training was well done and received by all staff. Chief Troxel attended the Opioid Use Reduction, which is acronym our Tillamook team meeting last week at Adventist Health. This partnership has been in place for years, and our Tillamook is a collaborative between nonprofit and community organizations with a mission to reduce and eliminate opioid misuse and overdose. Through this partnership, we have access to Narcan, an opioid overdose reversing agent. We even have someone here at City Hall. Executive Larson, Chief Troxel continued work on evidence and barcoding all items this past week. This system has helped in audits and inventory reviews. Good news regarding the police department accreditation. We have completed the initial assessment and have moved to the next step in the accreditation process. This is a big step in the correct direction for our first ever accreditation process. And just for everyone's information, accreditation requires high expectations, processes, policies, and guidelines that must be followed. This in turn ensures our TPUD is operating at high level service for our community. And in the Public Works Department, staff will continue to perform routine maintenance tasks like pothole filling and bioswale maintenance this week. We want to assure you that our street sweeper, though currently not operational due to maintenance, is anticipated to be fully operational by the end of this week. We want to thank the residents and the recently paved areas for their patience, understanding of the construction. And a big thank you also goes to our city's contractor in this project, SC Paving, for their exceptional work. As more of our sewer labs are replaced, the city continues collaborating with homeowners and contractors. We appreciate everyone's patience during the increased construction. The hanging flower basket program, which hangs is true, which runs from June and August, has concluded for the season. So Public Works staff will be removing the 40 hanging baskets adorned Main Avenue and Pacific Avenue. We want to extend a special thank you to Jan the Oyster Company for preparing these beautiful flower baskets, to our dedicated Public Works staff for their daily maintenance throughout the summer, to the police department staff that actually assisted the installation and removal of the flower baskets, and to Megan Chensley, our Public Works executive assistant who oversees the program. Their efforts can contribute significantly to a successful and vibrant season, and we look forward to another successful and vibrant season. Also, had a lot of compliments, and many people came and said it was the best flowers they'd ever seen, so we really appreciate that. The Water Distribution Division is in process of reading water meters throughout the week. Please don't park on or obstruct access to your water meter during this period to ensure an accurate reading, and utility payments are due on the 15th of the month. Convenient payment options are available on our website. A reminder, if you have any inquiries or potholes, damaged signs, overgrown vegetation, anything related to streets, public properties, utilities, parks, please call. You can email publicworks@tillamook.gov, or you can also call our City Hall, and especially if there's an urgent matter outside of regular hours, please call us, and you can follow the prompts to get to an on-call employee. Also, speaking about the Public Works Department, I'd like to share that I'm very proud of our Public Works Department. We have received many citizens stating the city's looking much better and clearer than in the past. I've even had citizens that live as far as Bend telling me the same thing. Yes, they do come visit Tillamook. This team, just like other departments in the city, have worked very hard to streamline processes and focus on structure since I've arrived almost 4 years ago, and the entire city team now does twice as much work than before with the same number of employees. I also want to take the opportunity to thank our mayor and council for their support of these great efforts in our departments by supporting the council manager form of government. One of the things that I have talked about before, but people may notice, that our police department now actively patrols, and even when they now have iPads in the cars, which is significantly cheaper than laptops and works just as well, but they now will write reports and things on the side of the road, which helps keep the visibility rather than just being in the office as much as possible. So really grateful to all of our employees, even at City Hall. I also attended the regular city managers in Tillamook County meeting last week. This is a monthly meeting I started when I first came, and I keep it going to allow us to discuss and swap ideas and thoughts on how to collaborate and work together for the better of our communities. We had a great and well-attended meeting. In fact, all city managers except for one were able to make it. Last week, I had an opportunity to attend the Tillamook Police Department, as we talked about before, but from my perspective, a meeting the TPD holds with all staff to provide updates, training, reports, and outside partner agencies are always invited to come and meet with the officers and provide an overview of their services. And as I mentioned earlier, this is Tides of Change today. All these things help strengthen our police department, which in turn helps us better serve our community. Our auditors were here last week on site, so they started the process of annual financial audit. The city recently made an offer to a highly qualified applicant for the new deputy city recorder position. I'm personally very excited about this since I won't have to be as involved in that position as I am now. However, it is currently in the human resources process, so no further announcements at this time. I am pleased to announce that the regional manager for the HomeServe Service Line Warranties America program, which the city partnered back in 2021 with to provide warranties to residents, will be visiting the city of Tillamook to see the city and meet many of our staff. The city greatly appreciates the partnership with HomeServe. If you're interested in seeing how much money this program has saved in our community, you may visit my City Manager Operations Report, which is always posted on the second monthly meeting, council meeting of the city's website. And the quarterly HomeServe report is included every quarter on this operations report. So for any questions, please contact the City of Tillamook. Reminder, if you see something, say something by calling 911 for emergencies or dispatch for non-emergencies. We still have people who are not calling 911 for emergencies and not calling dispatch. And even worse comes to worse, just call 911 and they will help sort it out whether it's a non-emergency or emergency. And that allows all the EMS and fire and police services to all respond appropriately with the appropriate documentation and with the appropriate resources. The next council meeting will be held Monday, September 16th at 7 p.m. We encourage anyone interested in the local government to attend virtually or in person. And we will also have several items that impact our community on the agenda, including a presentation from Tillamook County on the countywide public safety radio replacement proposal. And also on the Monday, October 21st agenda next month, we will be discussing the Tillamook County transient lodging tax proposal to increase the TLT in Tillamook County. We are pleased to have a presentation from our Tillamook County led by Commissioner Mary Faith Bell. So lots of things to look forward to, and thank you so much, Commissioner.
Thank you, Nathan. Well, with that, we will wrap up this community update call. I want to thank everyone for participating. Thank you, KTIL, for broadcasting, and thank you, Tillamook County, for listening. This call is adjourned at 9:30 a.m. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.